I regret to inform you that every difficulty still matters. Hello, ladies and gentlemen of the Helldivers 2 community. I'm your host, Fontamin, and I have returned with another video. This video is to address a misconception that's developed in the community over the last month, as well as put forth some facts that I think are worth considering. Firstly, some people have got it in their heads now that liberation progress is now tied to the amount of XP you get per mission and per operation. This is wrong. The only thing that changed about the Galactic War and Liberation progress was the addition of a variable known as Impact Multiplier, which does exactly what the name implies. It multiplies the amount of Liberation progress you get per mission and operation. But exactly how it does that was lost in the confusion and people jumping to conclusions. The multiplier increases and decreases based simply on the current global player count. That's it. It increases the amount of liberation progress you get per mission to compensate for the falling player counts at minimum hours. Now, this actually was an issue. As a person who did two 25-hour streams of the game, the Galactic War kinda just stops the moment the US goes to bed. So this was a necessary and very good change on the part of the developers. However, this is not a change to how things work, but a change to maintain things as they already are. So everything I said in the Every Difficulty Matters video is still entirely accurate. Despite some people proclaiming recently that the video is obsolete, no, every difficulty still matters. The only thing that changed is that your progress gets more efficient the lower the player count is. And no, you do not make more liberation progress if you play at higher difficulties and get more XP. If you play a Helldive operation and get 9 liberation points at the end of it, that just means it's probably like 4 AM in the United States. Though I think now people should actually start experimenting to see exactly what we can do at minimum hours. The impact multiplier goes from 1x to 3x at the lowest player counts currently. So the idea would be to attempt to get something done with as many players as you can get without disturbing the 3x multiplier. So the exact amount of literally no one and no more. So long as we maintain the 3 times multiplier for liberation progress, could we achieve more or less than primetime hours? This is gonna take the community some time to figure out. But moving on to something I noticed while I was experimenting to see exactly what the hell was going on. I was under the impression that the people who say, liberation is tied to XP now were correct, and went to see if I could still spam trivial missions and still make more progress in a faster amount of time than playing the harder difficulty missions and getting as much XP in them as possible. We now know that XP does not affect liberation, but this still got me on a train of thought. While I was still ignorant to the truth of what was going on, I was attempting to see if high operational turnover could be leveraged. Which is to say, could I spam shorter, easier missions at a pace so high I compete or even eclipse the payouts of higher difficulty missions that take longer to complete? This was ultimately pointless because we had all gaslit ourselves into thinking that higher difficulties paid more now. However, while doing this, I realized an overlooked strength of playing the lower difficulties. One that I think would be very important to raise right now with the current situation on the automaton front, it being a complete mess. This overlooked quality being the simple fact that if you play a single mission operation, upon completing that one mission, you get the liberation progress and then can just leave. Whereas a player playing a 2 to 3 mission operation cannot leave the planet until all of those missions are done, or they simply don't add any liberation progress. That guy is stuck on that planet. However, the person spamming trivial missions is not. This caused me to conduct a bit of an experiment, which is the reason for the sped up gameplay you're seeing currently. Knowing that the typical Helldive mission takes the entire 45-minute timer to complete, mainly due to the fact that it's easier to leave if you exploit the timer because of how patrols work, I wanted to see just how much could I get away with spamming trivials for 45 minutes. I took the expert extraction perk, didn't care about my stratagems, and I even lowered the game settings down to minimum to decrease the load times. Within 45 minutes, I was able to do a trivial mission on all 9 of the currently available planets for missions as of the making of this video, and also begin a mission on the planet I started at. bringing the total time to 48 minutes, which is still comparable to the Helldive mission if you include the 2-minute wait for the extraction shuttle after the timer runs out, and the loading screen to get back into the ship afterwards. The impact multiplier was set to 2x, so my progress was doubled, and by the end, I had amassed a cool 20 liberation points, globetrotting across the entire galaxy. In the same amount of time it would have taken me to complete a single Helldive mission, ultimately for 6 points, had I completed the other 2 missions. Which at that rate would have taken me another hour and a half, which, if we add that to the trivial mission counter, had I continued going at the same pace, I would have wound up with 60 liberation progress across the entire galaxy. And that's insane. However, I do know that decay and reinforcement rates whittle that down to be less impressive overall. So I don't think it's efficient to spread yourself that thin. However, with the current situation on the automaton front being a mess of multiple planets that we can't seemingly cover all at once, what if instead of going tall, we go wide? Wide like all of the hips of the tomboy Helldiver art on Twitter. If confined to bouncing around the planets in a single sector, and done at minimum player hours, we may be able to positively affect the situation on the automaton front. Now, I can't say for certain that this is the strategy that's going to single-handedly win us the war, however, the numbers are certainly lining up to me, so I think it's worth everybody's consideration. I will, however, admit that gaming the system like this isn't the most fantastic gaming experience, and I do have some ideas for how to improve the galactic war. However, I'll save those for another video. But that's all I've got for you today, ladies and gentlemen. I'll see you next time.